أجواء إيجابية إن شاء الله.
Good afternoon. You're watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Linda Tamim, and these are today's top stories. A woman identified as Ghazal Bshara is killed by her husband, Roni Shatawi, in the Bekaa town of Ilyas in the latest case of domestic violence in the country. The UN asks Israel to compensate Lebanon with a sum of $856.4 million for the oil spills it caused along its shores during the 2006 summer war. And Saudi Arabia's King Salman says security and economic development will remain top priorities for his country. A woman identified as Ghazal Bshara has been killed by her husband, Roni Shatawi, just 4 months after tying the knot. The 19-year-old woman's corpse was found in her home in the Bekaa Valley town of Ilyas. Her husband reportedly turned himself in to security forces later in the day. The motive behind the crime is still unknown, but Zahli Administrative Police launched an investigation into the incident. The United Nations has requested from Israel that it compensates Lebanon for the oil spills it caused along its shores during the 2006 summer war. A statement released by the Environment Ministry says the UN General Assembly asked Israel to pay Lebanon $856.4 million for causing the spillage of oil into its sea as Israeli jets striked oil tanks along the coast. 171 countries reportedly voted in favor of the decision, while 6 countries, including Israel and the United States, voted against the move. The following studies over the disaster prepared by UN organizations documented the negative effects the oil spills had on public health, environmental organizations, tourism, the coast, as well as sea resorts and marinas, which took a toll on the livelihoods of fishermen and sea life. Saudi Arabia's King Salman says security and economic development will remain top priorities for his country. In a televised speech before the National Advisory Council, Salman said Saudi Arabia's foreign policies are aimed at serving Arab and Islamic causes. He also referred to the importance of Saudi Arabia's custodianship of Islam's 2 holiest sites. Formerly Saudi Arabia's defense minister, Salman has made security his top priority since assuming the throne in January. The king also quickly set a new course for the monarchy's future by recasting the line of succession. He named Interior Minister Mohammed bin Nayef Crown Prince and his 30-year-old son Mohammed bin Salman Deputy Crown Prince. Syrian opposition activists say government helicopters are dropping barrel bombs and firing rockets on a flashpoint town southwest of Damascus in attacks that killed 5 people. All of them reportedly died of suffocation as activists on the ground accused the government of firing 4 rockets loaded with poison gas in the attack last night. The barrel bomb attacks continue today amid clashes in the town. Amnesty International has accused Russia of using cluster munitions and unguided bombs on civilian areas in Syria in attacks that it says have killed hundreds of people in the past few months. The report released by the watchdog said there has been a surge in reports of cluster munitions dropped in areas targeted by Russian forces since Moscow formally joined the conflict on September 30th. Cluster munitions are by nature indiscriminate and often leave unexploded bomblets on the ground. These can maim and kill civilians long after the cessation of hostilities. The report focuses on 6 attacks in Homs, Idlib and Aleppo provinces between September and November, which it says killed at least 200 civilians. The watchdog denounced Russia's shameful failure to acknowledge civilian killings, but Russia repeatedly rejected such accusations. And still to come in our program, rescuers pull a teenager from under the rubble in China after he was trapped for more than 60 hours. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching the English news. 2 Palestinians stabbed 3 Israelis near Jerusalem's Old City before police shot them, killing 1 attacker and wounding the other. The incident occurred at the Old City's Jaffa Gate, a popular entrance for tourists at a time of increased visits to the Holy Land for the Christmas season. A woman was killed and another was wounded after an explosion of unknown origin at Istanbul's second international airport. Airport cleaner Zehra Yamak, 30, died of head wounds hours after the blast on the tarmac at Sabiha Gökçen Airport on the Asian side of Turkey's largest city. The explosion took place just outside the terminal building, where planes park for their passengers to embark and disembark. A senior politician says Iraqi forces are likely to retake Ramadi from ISIS fighters within 3 or 4 days as fierce fighting for the key city continues. Iraqi forces closed in on ISIS's last redoubts in central Ramadi to retake the city they lost in May and further shrink the extremist caliphate. A day after punching deep into the city center, forces led by the elite counter-terrorism service inched towards the governmental compound in the capital of Iraq's vast Anbar province. A presumed U.S. drone strike has killed 4 suspected members of al-Qaeda in central Yemen. A security official said the raid targeted their vehicle near the border of Bayda and Shabwa provinces. The United States is the only country known to operate armed drones over Yemen. It has kept up strikes on militants during months of fighting between pro-government forces and Shiite Houthi rebels who control the capital. United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Zeid Ra'ad al-Hussein condemned the shelling of civilian sites in Yemen.
I have observed with extreme concern the continuation of heavy shelling from the ground and the air in areas with a high concentration of civilians, as well as the perpetuation of the destruction of civilian infrastructure, in particular hospitals and schools, by all parties to the conflict, although a disproportionate amount appeared to be the result of airstrikes carried out by coalition forces. I further call on the Council to do everything within its powers to help restrain the use of force by all parties and to urge all sides to abide by the basic principles of international humanitarian law, including by immediately removing all impediments to humanitarian assistance and fully cooperate with the humanitarian response team. Madam President, failure to act decisively does not only spell misery for the millions of vulnerable people in Yemen today, it would inevitably push the country into an irreversible process of balkanization, the consequences of which would lie outside of anyone's control. The potential ramifications of a failed state in Yemen would almost inevitably create safe havens for radical and confessional groups such as the so-called ISIS. This, in turn, could expand the conflict beyond Yemen's borders, potentially shattering regional stability.
Moving on to China, rescuers have pulled a 19-year-old man from under the rubble caused by a landslide in Shenzhen more than 60 hours after a disaster that has left scores of people missing. The dramatic development at a dump in Shenzhen came as police raided the offices of the company in charge of the site and arrested the deputy general manager. China's news agency says Tian was in a stable condition and doctors were trying to save one of his feet, which has been stuck in the debris. A unique look at Santa Claus's most famous helpers has been provided by the Norwegian Institute of Nature Research, which attached cameras to the necks of reindeers to record stills and videos as they went about their daily lives. Check it out.
They're perhaps best known for pulling Santa's sleigh, but reindeer also live in the wild on the mountains of southern Norway. The Norwegian Institute of Reindeer Research wanted an insight into their daily lives. So they've attached cameras to the necks of 9 reindeer and let them take stills and video over 4 years.
Det vi opptatt av da I forskningen vår
What we're concerned with in our research is to find out how the reindeers use the mountain area and why. We're especially interested in learning how we humans affect reindeers' use of the area.
Researchers found roads and paths were cutting reindeer off from their migration routes.
Det vi har begynt med de senere årene, det at vi har et kamera.
What we started with in the last few years is that we've got a camera on here which takes normal photographs or videos of what happens in front of the reindeer when he walks through the mountain area.
Many of the images were obscured by fur, or just showed another blanket of snow. But as researchers trawled through the almost 140,000 shots, they found some provided a secret lens on the year-round lives of the festive animals. The best pictures have been collated in a book entitled In the Midst of the Herd. The collection could be delivered by the herd's tamer cousins this Christmas. Whether Santa himself will be ordering a copy isn't known.
The Revenant, out in limited U.S. theaters on Friday, follows the story of pioneer-era fur trapper Hugh Glass, who was mauled in a grizzly bear attack and left for dead by his companions. Glass exhaustingly and excruciatingly travels across vast, primitive landscapes in pursuit of retribution. The film is likely to garner Leonardo DiCaprio his 5th Best Actor Oscar nomination. Here's the trailer.
The safe thing to do is track a new course back up on land.
Then what we gonna do? Sit out there like a bunch of goddamn ducks? You and your half-breed son get to walk on out? I'm talking to you.
My son.
The proper thing to do would be to finish him off quick.
He's to be cared for as long as necessary.
I understand. Do it! How?
What happened?
We did what we had to do.
He was buried right.
All I had was our boy, and he took him from me, you understand? He's afraid. He knows how far I came to find him. Afraid to die anymore. I've done it already.
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. A woman identified as Ghazal Bshara is killed by her husband Roni Shatawi in the Bekaa town of Ilyas in the latest case of domestic violence in the country. The UN asked Israel to compensate Lebanon with a sum of $856.4 million for the oil spills it caused along its shores during the 2006 summer war. And Saudi Arabia's King Salman says security and economic development will remain top priorities for his country. Those are your headlines for this Wednesday. I'll be back again tomorrow for the latest updates, so make sure you tune in.
الأجواء إيجابية إن شاء الله.